Okay, well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining. We are so happy to have you all here. And we are excited to be kicking off this year's Isaac Coleman cohort of grantees. So again, thanks for joining. I'm Sarah Joss. I am one of the grants managers here in the Strategic Partnership Department. I have worked with some of you in some capacities so far. Others, I might be a new face and name to you, so I want to introduce myself. And I'm also joined by Rachel Nygaard, who most of you know is the director of our department. And Angelyn Johnson isn't able to join us today, but she is our other team member who you will be working with on a pretty regular basis. Here is the agenda for our time together. And the most important items for us to discuss are related to the contracts, which most of you have received a contract draft from me at this point, if not all of you. And we want to just go over the different technical details of the contract, what we are looking for and what we are happy to support as we go through that process. We're also going to give some time for some questions at the end. So please feel free as we're moving through to type your questions in the chat, drop them in there in real time, or if you want to hold them towards the end, we can kind of have people speak up and ask their own questions if they want. All right, here is the list of Isaac Coleman grantees for this year. And this reflects the $500,000 total funding that is being granted for FY24. So that's the fiscal year starting July 1st of this year, as well as the amount that will be awarded to each project over the 3-year period of the grant. And that total is going to be 1.5 million. So as you all are aware, each of your contracts are going to be part of a 3-year overall cohort. And within that cohort, we will be assigning contracts annually. So we'll be renewing your contract that you're signing this year, given that everything goes well. So with the 5 or 6 organizations, 5, I can count, organizations that are with us today, we'd love to take a moment for folks to introduce themselves. And I know that I have my presentation pulled up, but maybe you can just unmute yourself, a representative from your organization, as I call your organization's name, and share your name, position within the organization, and whether or not you have participated in this grant program before. So we'll start at the top with Operation Gateway, if anyone would like to share.
And quickly, Sarah, I'll just unmute and say I just admitted a couple folks. Jean exited and came back in the meeting. And Jackie, I don't know if you were sitting in the lobby, but I apologize if I was why you were stuck there. But welcome to the meeting. We were just getting ready for introductions.
I can step up first, then Dan can follow, I'm assuming. I'm Gene Edison. I am the current interim board chair of Operation Gateway. And what was the other piece? And I have met you all before with some involvement with Emoja and with Michael Hayes and them. So I'm very familiar with the process.
And Operation Gateway is new to this grant program, so welcome. My daddy taught me.
It's going to be a lot of great work coming. Sorry.
We've got three folks from that group, Sarah.
Oh, great.
Are we all introducing ourselves?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm Dan. I'm a board member for Operation Gateway with Jean and Erin, who are also on here. Glad to be here, see a lot of familiar faces, and I've also been involved with the Isaac Coleman grant on another organization as well, so I'm paying attention, yeah.
I'm Erin Bowman. I'm the director at JFK, and I'm a board member for Operation Gateway. And I'm excited about this, since it's my first time being involved in this grant process. Thanks.
Welcome. All right. My daddy taught me that.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Hall. I am Director of Operations and Finance for My Daddy Taught Me That. And this will be our first grant cycle with Isaac Coleman.
Jackie, are you the only one from My Daddy Taught Me That on our call today?
I think so. I'm scrolling. I don't see anyone else, so I think so.
Okay, great, thanks. All right, Read to Succeed.
Yes. Hey, I'm Ashley Allen with Read to Succeed. I'm coming on as the co-executive director of Read to Succeed with the start of the fiscal year. It's my first time being a part of the Isaac Coleman grant, but not Read to Succeed's first time receiving that grant. And I'm the only one here with Read to Succeed.
Wonderful, welcome, and congratulations on your new position. Open Doors.
Hi, I'm Katie Valeka. I'm the grants coordinator here at Open Doors. And this is our first Isaac Coleman grant. We are elated. I love seeing which other community partners are in this opportunity. We've partnered with some of you in the past, would like to explore how this grant may be able to strengthen some of our partnerships, and just really excited to be here today.
Welcome. And Equal Plates Project.
Maddie? Well, my name is India. I am the finance manager for Equal Plates Project, and I've been involved through another organization in the past, but I'm now currently with Equal Plates Project. And Maddie, she was on a second ago. She is our managing director. This is her first year and her first time going through this process.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for that introduction. All right, so Buncombe County currently has 9 grant programs partnering with community organizations across various domains in alignment with county priorities and goals. So an important website for you to jot down or become familiar with, if it's not already in your favorites list, is buncombecounty.org/grants. And on this website, you're going to find lots of different details about the Isaac Coleman Grant Program, such as grant guidelines, awards. Your performance reporting will be listed there, committee information, etc. But you can also find other funding information about different grant programs through the county, such as the COVID recovery funding, aging services grants, community recreation, and more. I want to take a moment to talk a little bit more about the Isaac Coleman grants and what they're all about. So the Isaac Coleman grants are officially known as Isaac Coleman Economic Community Investment Fund. They're named for Isaac Coleman, who was a local activist and social justice champion in the area. He lived from 1944 to 2016. And he focused on community issues, including justice, education, housing, and living wages. So this is an important grant program for the county that was established in our FY 2018 budget, investing $500,000 annually for these grants. And as you all have seen or heard at this point, 1.5 million in awards is approved once every 3 years. So this is the start of a new 3-year cohort. This fund is currently focused on supporting Buncombe County's Racial Equity Action Plan, which we call the REAP, which was created in 2021. And you'll recall reading in the grant guidelines and hearing us talk in the grant writing workshop and consultations about the focus area here. The keywords that you see highlighted are the themes you'll see reflected in the projects that got picked for grant awards. And you'll see some of this language in your contract, scope of work, and performance reporting measures. So these are equitable opportunities, economic growth, educational improvement, social capital, and cultural identity. We're looking here at the grant life cycle. And here we are approaching July 1st, which is an important date to remember as it is the start of the new grant period. It is the start of our fiscal year, which runs July 1st to June 30th, and your funding is to support the 12 months of the fiscal year. Even though the Isaac Coleman grants are for 3 years, we still treat it like an annual contract, like I said before. And your first contract will be this year, FY24. And then your annual contracts will be automatically renewed, subject to that budget availability and project performance. So as long as the Isaac Coleman grant program exists in year 2 and 3, and as long as your project is making reasonable progress on its commitments, your funding is secure for a 3-year period. And county staff are currently working diligently to equip you to be ready to get going on your grant projects. And the first step in that is the contracts. So we'll get to that momentarily, but first we want to share some new resources and tools with you all. Buncombe County is committed to supporting organizations throughout the community investment grant process. And this year we're rolling out some brand new resources and tools to assist our grantees in navigating the public funding landscape to ensure that all grantees have the support that they need to successfully manage your community investment grant and beyond. So we would love to let you know about these new resources, which include a board member guide to public funding, which could be extremely helpful to share with your board. The nonprofit insurance overview, which provides additional information about the different insurance requirements and what purpose they provide, which you have seen all of the different insurance requirements specific to your grant project in your contract. The finance guide and workbook, which will take you step by step through everything from financial statements to budgeting and risk to internal controls and compliance. And then we also have some accompanying financial practice videos, and these go hand in hand with that financial guide and workbook. So definitely take a moment to look through that finance guide and workbook as well as the accompanying videos. There are 5 of them available, and they're each between 5 and 10 minutes long, so not too long, but very useful for anyone who's going to be working on your grants. We also have the North Carolina Secretary of State nonprofit compliance document, which is information to help you navigate your organization's charitable solicitation license or exemption requirements. And you can find all of these resources again on that same website, buncombecounty.org/grants. If you just scroll down below the initial grant tiles, you'll see that organizational strengthening resources and tools section. And if you want to take a deeper dive into these new materials and how to utilize them to your advantage, we encourage you to join us for a new grantee orientation call, which is taking place on Tuesday, July 11th at 3 p.m. Even if you are not new to receiving funds from Buncombe County, we still encourage you, if you're interested in learning a bit more and finding out more about these tools and best practices, you are welcome to attend, and we encourage you to. And you can email Angeline Johnson to sign up. We'll provide her email address at the end of the presentation for you. So we know that public funding comes with strings attached, and it's our commitment to you to be supportive partners. In addition to this kickoff call and offering some new resources, we are also committed to providing individualized, flexible support depending on the needs and priorities of your organization. And we know this is going to differ according to each different project, organization, situation. We might find ourselves brainstorming an outcomes tracking plan, an inventory management system, but we're also planning to coordinate a group learning opportunity or opportunities through this cohort. This has looked different for each Isaac Coleman cohort in the past. It might have been called the Learning Collaborative, which was used a few years ago, but regardless of what exact shape and form it takes, the overall goal of this is to maximize group connection and growth across the whole cohort of Isaac Coleman grantees. So keep an eye out for these opportunities. We will definitely make everyone aware of them, and we would love to have you participate. That is part of your contract scope of work that you'll see. So speaking of contracts, I'm now going to turn it over to Rachel, and she is going to walk us through your contract materials.
Thank you, Sarah. Hi, everybody. I'm Rachel Sawyer Nygaard, and it's great to see some familiar names and faces and make some new connections. And before I jump into the contract information, which is a little bit technical, I just want to pause and say thank you so much for your responsiveness in communicating with us so far about these contracts. We are committed to being as responsive as we can on our end to get you a fully executed, which means signed by both parties, a fully executed agreement as soon as possible so that your organizations have the necessary authority and funding in your hands to get off and running with the work. I heard Sarah mention that many or most have already received a copy of your draft contract. So that is good. We're moving along quickly, but don't think that just because we sent you a copy of a really official looking contract that it can't be changed. Much of what is in those agreements can be adjusted. Just ask. And we will go through the different elements of the contract, hit some of the high points. Even if it's something that you see in the contract that I don't mention today, if you've got a question, just ask. But we will talk about financial assurances, insurance provisions, payment details, scope of work, and reporting requirements. Once the contracts are fully executed, you're eligible for payment based on the terms of the contract. What you see on this slide is the standard payment schedule, which calls for invoices to be submitted quarterly for reimbursement. But again, hear me share that we're open to being flexible. So if you'd like to request a different payment structure, please let us know. For example, some projects are seasonal. Equal Plates is doing a lot of work over the summer, and it might not make sense to spread payments across an entire fiscal year. Or other nonprofits might rely on the cash flow, need to have those funds in hands in order to conduct the work. So reimbursement might not work or be most ideal in those cases. So essentially, unless we hear otherwise, we're going to start with the standard, which is kind of loaded in our template, and you see on the screen, which is quarterly reimbursement, and commit to being as flexible as possible in helping you meet your needs. So just hit reply and contact us directly if you'd like to have a conversation about setting up a payment structure for your project. The scope of work in the contract, which is an appendix at the end, is the place where we document the agreements specific to your project. Nearly everything else in the contract is boilerplate and can apply to multiple projects, but this is the section that's all about your work. Our goal is to communicate the project in a straightforward list of activities that your organization agrees to complete by taking on this funding. And we appreciate your help when staff reached out to you asking for assistance developing these. Of course, like we said, anything in the contract can be up for discussion if you have a question or want to request a change in that, but the scope is where we have the most flexibility. So certainly read it closely. and take a look at those activities, the performance measures, and the goals, because that's what we'll write into the contract, and that's what will carry forward into your reporting. We'll get back to reporting in a minute, but first, financial assurances. This is elements that is described in the grant guidelines. You saw a mention on a previous slide to a Board of Commissioners resolution. That's the body at Buncombe County government that set the guidelines for us here. So we look at this Board of Commissioners resolution for what we need to collect from nonprofits getting grants. And this is essentially your IRS Form 990, or the tax filing that the nonprofit submits each year. We'll have a copy of that. And then your financial statements. We don't call it an audit because financial statements actually can be an audit, a review, or a compilation. And we use that tiered structure depending on the size of your organization. We can review your situation on a case-by-case basis to determine whether a waiver might make sense if you don't have the level of financial assurance requested. So here it shows $300,000 or greater in annual revenues. I always have to check that. 300,000 or more in annual revenues would bring your group to the threshold where we would ask for a full audit. But maybe the group, maybe your nonprofit hit that just for the first time, or you're getting an audit every other year instead of annually, whatever the case is. If you don't have what we're asking you to send, don't panic. Just stay in touch with us, and we have a process to substitute a different level of documentation. Insurance is also something that's pretty specific. Buncombe County requires contracted organizations to have the appropriate insurance for what they do. We receive guidance from an office at Buncombe County called Risk Management about the type of level of insurance to put in each contract, depending on the nature of the work that's being conducted. So when you receive your draft, you'll see a section listing which insurances are requested for your project and the minimum amounts of coverage that are needed. If you don't feel it's necessary to carry the amount that we're asking, please let us know so we can look into it with you. We would probably bring the risk office together and have that conversation. These are a list of some common types of insurances that you may see. Commercial general liability insurance is bolded in this slide. At the very minimum, all of your contracts are going to have this. All organizations receiving county funds are required to carry general liability insurance that names Buncombe County as additionally insured. You can contact your insurance provider to request at no cost a certificate naming Buncombe as additionally insured. And there is, like Sarah mentioned previously, some resource information on our website about insurance. I would like to make a note about insurance is that you may utilize grant funds to maintain these coverages as long as it's built into your project budget. We're going to talk more about budgets in a bit, but I'll just briefly mention here, budgets can be changed. So even if it wasn't part of your original plan, there's still a way to make an adjustment. In every scope of work, there is a section for reporting. We will provide you with a reporting workbook once we're done and finalize the contract. We'll send this over to you, and that workbook will be submitted by the 15th of the month following the end of the quarter. So the July, August, September is quarter one, and you would submit by October 15th with information for that period. And the reports have 3 sections, budget, narrative, and numerical. This budget reporting is going to be the same information, whether or not you're using it to show how you used money you got up front, or whether to use it as an invoice for a drawdown. So basically we'll load your starting budget in, and then you show what spending has happened per budget category over the 3-month period. And if you're using it as an invoice, what we do is go ahead and kick off a payment to you once we've been able to go through it. And we are able to turn those payments around pretty quickly. And if it's being used as documentation for an upfront payment, we save it in your file as, again, as that documentation. The budget section is based on the approved starting budget. And if you would like to request changes to your budget, you can do that anytime in writing. Just send us an email explaining the line item change, this much from this line to this line, etc., and the reason, and we'll reply in writing. It doesn't have to be that we hold our whole conversation in writing. Maybe it makes sense to chat first, and we could we would be happy to meet and have a conversation. And then at the end of that, what we'll do is formalize it, and we'll have an email trail that documents the budget change that we decided, so that you have that for your records and we've got it for ours, and we'll send you an updated reporting workbook that reflects it. I will say it's not necessary on financial reporting to turn in receipts and all of the payment backup each time you send in a report. You are required to maintain them. And we'll talk more when we get to the contract monitoring section about how we might get in touch with you to look at that. So I'm looking at Maddie's picture on the screen, and India, I know you all will be relieved to hear that those receipts are not due at each drawdown like they are for the federal project that you've been working with our office on. This is all, the Isaac Coleman project is all funded by Buncombe County general funds or local funds, which give us a little bit more flexibility than federal. The narrative summary is a tab, and it's a chance for you to tell us how the project is going. We are providing separate boxes for each quarter so that viewers of your report can see your cumulative year-to-date status updates. And these reports do get published to the Isaac Coleman Grant website, as well as shared with the review team and for any others that would like to follow along with the work. So think about that as you're sharing to a broad audience. And because we're doing it in this form, we know characters are limited. You've got to be concise with what you put into the reporting form, and you're welcome, even encouraged, to attach additional materials. If you have separate documents that you want to send in your email to us when you turn your report in, we will append, we'll add it to your report for that quarter so that the committee receives additional materials. The final tab or section in the quarterly report is for the results, which is the numerical measures. With your help, we've selected a small handful of numerical performance measures with annual goals. They are annual. This is a group of projects that will be working over a 3-year period, but these goals are designed to be annual. And one place that people sometimes get tripped up is that it's totaling over in the column on the right, your progress towards your annual goal. So if your goal was to serve 30 students in a year, and you served 30 in the first quarter, and you still served 30 in the second quarter, you wouldn't want to put a 30 again because it's going to add it. So you would only add the number of new students or new whatever item you have for your performance measure. A note about contract monitoring. We wanted to spend a little time during our orientation introducing the concept of contract monitoring. This comes later once projects are all underway, but having everyone together on today's call gives us a good opportunity to set the stage for it. Contract monitoring is a set of activities that we, on behalf of Buncombe County government, undertake related to the public funding the grant funding to ensure that adequate progress is being made toward project goals and that funds are being properly spent and accounted for. We do basic monitoring all year by looking at the reports as they come in and following up as questions arise. And we also conduct a more in-depth type of monitoring, which is sometimes known as desk reviews. Not all organizations get a desk review every year. And we select them using a number of factors. We randomly select using a random number generator to do a sample of our grant portfolio in any given year. And we also might do a contract monitoring as part of our agreement when we provide a waiver. So if an organization is asked to have an audit, but they don't have an audit, we might be comfortable going forward with something else if we add in a monitoring. So these desk reviews essentially entail an interview style meeting with questions related to the contract, and we gather follow-up documents related to the reported information, both on the programmatic and the financial side. And any and all monitoring leads to recommendations. The intent is for better compliance with requirements related to managing public funds. We're committed to being a supportive partner and on organizational strengthening or capacity building. And if and when we identify any findings or recommendations, we'll communicate clearly and partner with you to brainstorm about any resources and support for moving forward. I've messed up my screens. Okay, common findings. There, just to name some examples of areas that organizations sometimes run into snags. I wanted to name a few of these while we're here together today to get you thinking. So having a way to link expenses directly to the grant is an area that organizations sometimes get tripped up. Essentially, because your funding contract requires in the payment section that you use fund accounting, you've got to treat these funds like restricted funds. That means the Isaac Coleman grant doesn't just go in the big grant bin with all other grants, but it actually gets tagged in your tracking system so that we can link specific expenses to specific grants. Maintaining receipts, again, just because we're not asking for them each quarter when you do your drawdowns doesn't mean you're not required to submit them. You must keep them on hand in case we do request them. Your tracking system can be electronic, which is ideal, but paper is okay, no matter how you save them, as long as they're clear and organized and orderly, that can show how the funds were used and how it links to the project. A best practice is when it's not always clear on the face to add notes of explanation. Organizational policies. We don't have a checklist that we can give today of every policy that would necessarily be required, maybe like the federal government does in their uniform guidance, because it sort of depends on your work. You'll see you might hear us asking about a credit card policy if an organization makes a lot of purchases by credit card. You might hear us asking about a policy related to inventory if there's a lot of supplies purchased and held, so that there's a way that the organization is ensuring that those supplies get managed and used in the right for the right program or the right use. It really just does depend. Personnel policies, if your grant is helping pay for staff. And time and effort tracking is an example of what might become covered in a personnel policy. Time and effort tracking itself is a federal term, but the idea is essentially timesheets and payroll that show the hours worked and the related costs that are charged to a grant. When employees are 100% paid for a grant, it's almost easier because their job description confines their work toward the purpose that the funds are supporting. if an employee is doing some of their work for one grant and some of their work for other purposes, that's when it's really necessary to be careful about tracking the number of hours worked toward the project so that the expenditures can link with those personnel records. So we will cover these topics in a more in-depth. I just wanted to give a taste of that contract monitoring and findings. Again, a quick plug, that new grantee orientation on July 11th at 3:00 p.m. If you're interested, or your staff, other board members, other key personnel want to learn more, that's an upcoming opportunity. So that's a run through of the many areas in the contract where we have common questions. As far as next steps go for today, it's all back to getting that contract signed. If you have received your contract and you feel great about it, you're able to sign that and return. If you have questions, let us know and we'll work with you to see if there are ways that we can edit the contract and issue you a new copy. Your email also from Sarah also tells you what other documents we're asking for a copy of, which would include the 990 financial statements, certificate of insurance, and new supplier forms if you're a new grantee. I believe if you're getting paid for the first time, we are going to be letting you know so that you're aware if that applies to you. And I believe that is the end of our prepared material.
I just want to add in quickly, when you are looking to sign and return your contract, just reiterating that this year electronic signatures are acceptable and you do not have to get your contract notarized where you did in the past. So hopefully that is helpful as you are getting all of these materials together. Again, we know that it's some hoop jumping, and we just want to make it as straightforward and easy as possible. So note that you do not have to get it notarized and you can submit your PDF contract with an electronic signature this year.
Thank you for that, Sarah. And I think that leads us to the contact information, which we'll hold on the screen briefly in case anyone wants to jot that down. We will be sending this to you so that you've got it in your email for yourselves and to share with other members of your team. And I think at this point, we will drop our slides and open the floor. I pass back to you, Sarah, for Q&A. I saw a hand briefly.
All right. Looks like Dan has a question.
Hey, yeah, thanks for the presentation. That was really clear. One question I had was around the financial statements. You know, for example, I mean, Operation Gateway is, you know, relatively new and growing every year and really active. So, you know, the first 990 is going to be the postcard. The second 990, which is still in process, you know, might look different. So, what's the most recent year that you need? And, you know, say the 990 for 2022 is not back yet because there was an extension. What would we do as a replacement?
Yep, great question. And the answer is whatever is the most recent on file is what you can submit to us at this time, and just notify us of kind of a timeline to expect the updated materials that might be coming our way. So if it is the first year and you have the postcard, notify us of that. If you are waiting on an audit to be prepared or a financial review and you have documents from the prior year ready, send those to us and just let us know when you expect the new materials to be available.
Okay, great. And so that wouldn't require a waiver. That would just require kind of a commitment of, you know, we expect this to be in place by a certain date.
The waiver is a little bit different. in that if you don't have any of those tiers of financial documents readily available, which were the audit, the financial review, or the compilation, if there's no history of those for the organization, you can request a waiver. And that's something that we will work with you on, and might be something that we recommend some form of compilation or review in continuous years of the contract. Does that make sense? The 990 is separate from the financial assurances.
Yeah, I'd say on the 990, if the deadline has passed and we would expect it to be a newer year, but you have an extension, giving us a copy of that for your files would be really helpful. As far as the waiver goes, it's essentially a way for us to do business with organizations and not exclude. So often what we will submit is like a profit and loss and a balance sheet.
Sure.
From the nonprofit's own accounting system. So some QuickBooks reports, maybe a recent board of directors treasurer's report or something of that nature that basically gives a little insight into the financial condition.
Okay. Thank you.
And I also wanted to say, along with what we kind of provided for the organizational strengthening tools and materials, we're also available to be a support and kind of lead you in the right direction if you have questions on anything. For newer organizations or those who are receiving funding from us for the first time, if you have questions about what is necessary or required or what those requirements might look like, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to walk you through what that might entail and support that process for you. Other questions, comments, ideas? All right. Well, as we've said a couple times, the contracts have mostly been issued to this group at this point, and I know that I've already heard back from a couple folks, so thank you so much for your prompt attention to those. Definitely do read through that email that I sent you, look at the contract, the performance measures, the activities, the goals, as well as the requested documents, the financial assurances, insurance. And I know that there are a few groups in here that are new to Buncombe County funding, so we might be requesting those new supplier forms as well. And the quicker that you can return those to me, the quicker we can get these contracts executed and get you some money so you can start doing the work. So with that, I will just thank you all so much for all of the time and dedication that you spend to the work that you do in our community, to this process, applying, and all of the hoop jumping that we know comes along with grant applications. We're very excited to be working with you all, and I think this is a really fantastic cohort of projects and organizations. So thank you so much.
Just for clarity, one more time, you all did say that the link to this recording and the slides will actually be sent to us?
Yes, I will make sure to send those to you. Yep. All right, thanks everyone. Have a wonderful evening.